Okay, so we're back to the performance eval for fasteners and anchors. Performance task number 3 is install fasteners in hardened concrete. So we're going to take an anchor, a drop-in anchor, and we're going to drill a hole and install it into the concrete. So when we get done, we'll have a bolt sticking out of there, and we'll look at the squareness and the levelness of it. So what we need to do first is find the bin and have our anchor. We're going to measure the outside diameter. The outside diameter is going to be 1 inch. You may or may not be able to see this very good on the video or not, but you can measure that. So what we get is the 1 inch drill bit for the hammer drill. And just to show you in frame size, here's the outside cover for the 1 inch, and here's the one for the 1/2 inch. So you see it's much larger and much longer. And I brought the depth gauge out here for the hammer drill, but as you see, where we're got to go, that depth gauge is not going to be accurate. So again, we would take the tape and the length of the anchor and measure it up here. It's about 3 3/16, and I'm at about 3 1/8 there with my tape. So we're in the ballpark range. What we will do, plug it in, inspect the tool, do everything before we plug it in, go through the safety side. You don't need to show me all that because you will have done that with power tools by the time you get here. What I've pre-done so you don't have to watch is I've drilled a hole here. Okay? Down to my depth. I've blown it out with the air hose, done everything. Measure my depth, make sure I'm at the depth of the length of the anchor. Once I've got that all done, or once you have all that done, we're going to take a 3/4 inch bolt, because this should fit somewhat tight in there. You see it, because it wobbled at top, it loosened a little bit, but I'm going to have to pound it in there. First thing we're going to do is we're going to screw the threads of this bolt as far in there as possible, because we're going to use a hammer to drive it down in there. And we want as much thread engagement between the anchor and the bolt so that we don't damage the threads. If we just hit on the top of the anchor with the hammer, we would damage the threads and the bolt would not be able to start in there when we got done. And obviously if we only went 1 or 2 threads, we put all that work in, or all that force into that. So we want to thread it in as far as we can. We can always take it back out. Then we're going to put it in here and take a sledgehammer and just drive it down. Once we have driven it in, now we can take the bolt back out. I'm not going to say a certain number of threads. Thread it in as far as you possibly can, because that it protects the threads of the anchor. This is called the setting tool. What we're going to do with this is, once we have the anchor in there, there's a little plastic sleeve down there. And these slits here are what spreads out, and we're going to pound that plastic sleeve down so that when we start pulling and it tries to pull the anchor out, it spread those splits apart and makes the anchor hold into the concrete. So we have to use this setting tool to do that. And again, it's simple, just like pounding the anchor in. We just give it a few good smacks and make sure. I should have probably inspected. We probably need to grind the head of this off. Just like a punch or a chisel, it does get mushroomed, but we'll take care of it before tomorrow. And then lastly, we will start our bolt back in there. We don't have to tighten it all the way down in there, but at this point, we'll go from this side and look this way to see if it's square, and then the other way, we'll look that way to see if it's square. It looks pretty straight up and down here. I'd have to back up a little bit this way. It may be leaning just a touch towards this way, but I think you guys get the idea. It is so important to drill a straight hole as you're doing this. And what I will do while you guys are drilling this, if you want my help, normally we have 2 people doing this, or you're allowed to have someone, so that if you're getting ready to drill, and I see that you have the drill, let me start this way since the camera's over there. If it's off angle here, I will tell you to move it that way to straighten it up. If it's off angle this way or this way, I will help you to help try and guide you in there to get a square hole. Like I said, normally we have the ability to have another student out here, but with the pandemic, we may or may not have that ability. So, and with the pause and stuff. So that's what we're looking at doing for the number 3 on the performance eval. So if you have any questions, let me know. Email, text, call me, get a hold of me, whichever way.